And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford and Dave Lockren along with you on this Friday morning 10-game NBA slate. We are brought to you in part by Yahoo DFS as well. And on today's episode of the DFS Early Bird, we'll be giving away 1 month free at Awesemo.com.
Ooh.
Thanks to Tom. Thanks to Alex. We'll be doing that to say thank you to all the listeners. I asked personally to sponsor it, and Tom said, no, just have it. And I was like, cool, man. I don't have to pay for it, and you're doing it for free. This is fantastic. And he said I could even claim it for myself. But no, we are giving it away for free here. We will have trivia. We will have 2 trivia questions and a prediction. You'll need to comment on our YouTube stream. So if you're not on YouTube, you need to get over there, create a Gmail or YouTube account, comment. You'll need to do them all in one comment. Anybody else, you are not eligible. If you comment multiple times, not eligible. It all needs to be in one comment. 2 trivia questions, 1 comment about top play, and I'll say what that is by the end of the show. So you need to listen to the whole thing. You need to watch the whole thing.
So what are we giving away?
A 1 month free full board. Awesemo.com. No fantasy cruncher, but access to everything.
All access platinum, Awesemo Plus.
That is correct.
Beautiful.
So,
I mean, all you got to do is a couple comments. Be crazy not to do it.
Exactly right. So get on board, share it. I also would appreciate share it on social media, share it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Tag me at Dan Trevor, tag at Lofty_D. If you don't know, that's LOUGHY_D, Awesemo_com as well. But it will be the YouTube comments that run the day. Dave, how the hell are you doing?
Not bad, man. I tell you what, Giannis Antetokounmpo, this might be it for the National Basketball Association. I mean, he's 5 for 7 from 3. He's shooting 44% from 3 this month. Think about this. If this continues and he becomes a 40% three-point shooter, it's a wrap. It's over.
Well, I was told by Andrew Barron that there wasn't enough upside.
Yep, Adam actually already got to that on Twitter.
Did he? All right, good.
We needed
love you, Drew. Love you, but there's enough upside there for Giannis to continue to be the best and continue to get better from there. So if he's hitting 38% of 3-pointers,
it's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
It's a whole new ball of wax.
Like Ben Simmons is never going to be, as Giannis pulls down an offensive rebound, kicks it out to Middleton, who drains the 3. This team's insane. Ben Simmons is never going to be Giannis, but here's the thing. Like, when you think about this team, right? Or when you think about Giannis Antetokounmpo and Simmons, if Simmons learned to knock down even like 35% of threes, it'd be over. He'd also be ridiculously good.
Absolutely. We talk about the new NBA and the efficiency of offense and near the rim, 3-point range, the mid-range is sort of dead. But if Simmons could hit 34% of his like the margins there are so thin for Simmons to be the elite along with Giannis if he's hitting those 3-pointers that it's legitimately, you wonder how or why or why not for Ben Simmons in the long run, and hopefully it's a part of his game. I know Brett Brown was saying he wants him taking at least 1 per game, and that goes to keeping the defense honest and making sure that defenders are respecting that he may pull up from out there. But also it's part of the rhythm, right? You get into taking more of them, you get more confident in the fact that you have the opportunity to do it, and maybe he becomes that next level superstar. That is a possibility for these Philadelphia 76ers. As we continue here, though, we're going to break down a 10-game slate that has a ton of injury concerns. As we roll through, we're going to go point guard through to center. I'll ask the questions after point guard. I'll ask the question after small forward. And then before we do center, I will tell you which position the projection is for. So we're going to ask a position and a point value for projection. Whoever gets 2 trivia questions right, projection closest without going over, Price is Right rules here, will be a winner of an Awesemo sub. If there's a tie, I will choose the winner. I'm going to leave that to myself. So with that said, Dave, we're going to dive in. We're going to go point guard on through to center. Big news, obviously, is that Luka Doncic continues to be out. That makes point guard a much cheaper position overall if we're talking about averages of salary, simply because we take the 11-7 away. We start with Dame Lillard, who gets Orlando, Drew Holiday against Golden State 8-6. Kyle Lowry, it would seem his entire roster is injured. So he is somebody that we're going to have to at least talk about at 8,500. And then you have some other Q tags. You have the like of Booker with a Q tag. Walker is against Detroit. D'Angelo Russell for the Golden State Warriors with a ton of usage against New Orleans. Let's go through this whichever way you want, but I do want to put a pin in Kyle Lowry and understand your thoughts on Toronto and how Lowry fits in here with all the injuries. What do you like at point guard?
I mean, I think at this point with the Serge Ibaka, or I'm sorry, the Pascal Siakam news being out indefinitely with that groin, Marcus saw that doesn't affect him as much, but the Siakam news is huge. I mean, let's just assume that Siakam or that Van Vliet is. Do we have news on Van Vliet yet? I don't know if we do.
Nothing that I've seen for Friday night. Wednesday was the last blurb I read on Van Vliet.
Right. So I don't think we have anything on him yet. I mean, if he ends up being out too, you have to consider Lowry a top option across the board. Price point right now is up there. I guess DraftKings preemptively priced him up because that's a big price jump. But against Washington, oh my God, like it doesn't get any better than this. Even at that price, I'm okay with him. And I don't know. It seems like Fred VanVleet probably doesn't play again. So now you've got Siakam out and presumably Van Vliet out. Oh, imagine what Lowry's going to not even be able to do, but what he's going to have to do. His usage goes up. He's only played 129 minutes in this situation, but 1.43 fantasy points per minute, 28.4% usage rate, and 47% assist rate. Even if Van Vliet's on the floor, you just go to both of them here. It's way too good of a spot to ignore. Absolutely love this. You have to get there. You have to play him. I mean, again, and you get Washington, which I've been saying is the best fantasy matchup available in basketball. It is the best one. I also like D'Angelo Russell at a similar price point. There's a lot at point guard. If Van Vliet plays again, I really like him, even at 7,700. Taking Siakam, a 29% usage guy off the court. This is huge. You know, a 29% usage guy that's playing like 38 minutes per game. It's just a really huge spot. Those are the two places that I see myself gravitating towards. Even at high ownership, I don't envision myself getting away from them. I don't see why you'd want to or why you'd have to. And that's kind of what it comes down to. When you're looking at the rest of the position, I'm not in love with anything. There are a few guys, you know, Ben Simmons against Dallas at 7,900 is fine. Kemba Walker against Detroit at 83. Like, I don't see how I get to him over D'Angelo Russell, definitely not over Kyle Lowry. I mean, there's just simply no way that's happening. But I'll say this much. If you're looking at some value, Luke Kennard's doubtful for this game, and that's probably going to open the door to pretty big minutes from Langston Galloway. Not a particularly exciting player by any means. But you're probably going to get like 33 minutes from him in this spot. I mean, you might get even more. He's already playing 20-plus minutes per game. Now you take 30-plus away from Luke Kennard, and that's going to open things up. I think it benefits a bunch of these guys, but in terms of just being dirt cheap, $300 above the minimum on DraftKings, you've got to like Langston Galloway here.
Makes sense. Mid-tier, I want to ask one question on one player, and that's Colin Sexton. He has a matchup with Memphis. Was talking with Adam on Thursday morning. Wednesday's record about sort of the idea that in the past, Memphis, Utah, some of these defensive teams we've known to be this year, they have not been. So you have a Colin Sexton or even any of these other Cleveland guards. Do you see any upside for them against a Memphis squad that just has not played defense, is playing a much higher pace, and potentially these Cavalier guards are at a reduced price point with potential upside?
Not really. I think the one spot I never mind going to, and I think it's going to be a close game, is Kevin Love. I had a lot of interest in Kevin Love last game. He didn't disappoint. When it comes to, who did you say, Colin Sexton?
Yep.
When it comes to Sexton, it's just at that price, you're paying what, mid 5K range to hopefully get 35 fantasy points from him. He doesn't do much better than that because he doesn't contribute anything in the peripheral department. So I don't see myself getting there. Really, the same thing goes for Darius Garland. I mean, both of these guys are pretty underwhelming in terms of giving us stats outside of scoring. And that's hard for me to feel good about. It is a good matchup against Memphis. I have him as a decent point per dollar play for sure, but just not somebody that I would imagine I get a ton of. Not to mention their minutes are just so wild and all over the place. It seems like the moment something goes wrong, you see Clarkson come in and then he gets huge minutes. So right now, Lowry, if Van Vliet plays him too, D'Angelo Russell would be another one. Galloway is super cheap, not a great per minute option, but definitely viable here. I think Jamal Murray's fine against Minnesota in a pace up spot. Everything's a pace up spot for Denver, really. And then I'll throw Malcolm Brogdon in there as well, 7,700 against Sacramento. You know, he's been seeing around 35 minutes, and that's pretty encouraging. So the more minutes he's getting, the more I like him.
All right, we go to shooting guard next, and this is where we ask our first trivia question. Remember, you need to be over on YouTube. You need to be leaving comments on this video. Don't care about liking, though we do like the thumbs up, and don't care about leaving a comment over on iTunes or any of those. We want comments on YouTube, and we want you to answer these 2 trivia questions and the projection, and you will do that all in one comment. So save it. Make sure you have it ready to go by the end of the show. First one, Dave and I have been doing a podcast together for 6 years. What was the name of the first podcast we did together? Just the name of it. Full name.
That's good.
Full name needs to be the full name. And the first podcast we did together. And you will leave that. Then you'll leave the second trivia. And then you'll leave a projection. So we're moving on to shooting guard next. I am a huge Bradley Beal fan. I think my affection for him has grown as this year has gone on. I think this is a guy that has been left to carry the load for a terrible basketball team, but now he gets a matchup with the Toronto Raptors, and these injuries on the defensive end, I don't know that I can really project between Gasol and Siakam and how this will play out. There's no line as we record now. I don't think. I haven't seen one as of yet. Let me double check the one place. No, I see -10 for Toronto, but no over-under as of yet. You also have Jimmy Butler here against a somewhat resurgent Knicks team. They're 3-3 under their interim coach, Mike Miller. Is a team that has some talented pieces, but a bunch of power forwards that don't really mesh well together. Do you have a take on shooting guard at the top end between Beal at 9,100, Jimmy Butler at 9K, then the likes of Holiday, Booker, Russell, Wiggins, and on down the line?
I mean, there's definitely a lot to like. Beal against Toronto, it's a tough matchup, but I mean, this game should stay closer. Now, I don't. Excuse me, man. I do too many shows in a day, Dan. Just yawning on the show. Oh, it's horrible. But with Brad Beal, this matchup's going to get easier. We're definitely not going to have a line on it with everybody injured. But now he drive to the rim without Marc Gasol being there. This defense definitely won't be as good. They're still going to be solid, right? They still have quality backcourt defense. Beal at 9,100 is fine. I talked about D'Angelo Russell already. He's at shooting guard too. So is Van Vliet. That's the thing. A lot of these guys, if you're talking DraftKings, are eligible there. I would probably still go Jimmy Butler over Bradley Beal, and that might definitely be an unpopular take, but I'm not too worried about it. Drew Holiday against Golden State, not a bad spot, but I just feel like he's priced up a little bit too much. I don't know if you need to get there for Drew Holiday, especially with a lot of this New Orleans Pelicans team, or at least the important guys in this team being healthy. Just looking over, making sure I'm not missing anything, because that price definitely, everyone's healthy. So I don't see why he would be that expensive. On DraftKings, I really see myself using the point guard, shooting guard eligible guys at both positions, just because of how great of spots they're in. Derrick Rose with Kennard out could see a boost, but I hate this matchup, and I don't want to pay that price tag unless I can, feel confident that he's going to be playing 28 minutes. I know he did last couple games. Is that sustainable? I don't know. If it is, if he's going to be playing, not sustainable, but if what's his name? Come on, help me out here. If Dwayne Casey's going to keep giving him run close to 30 minutes, then Derrick Rose definitely becomes a lot more interesting, because on a per minute basis this year, he's been very good. It's just, when you're playing 24, 25 minutes per game, that's not enough. On a per minute basis, he's giving us, let's see, 1.25 fantasy points per minute. So, really solid production. Against Boston, it kind of sucked, but I do understand why you might want to go there. Let's see, Booker against OKC. Just point guard's a whole lot friendlier, but at the top, those are the guys that we've already talked about are the ones I think I'd get to. And if Van Vliet is out, right? If Van Vliet's out, Terrence Davis might be thrust into playing more minutes. This is yet to be seen, because I don't know what Nick Nurse is going to want to do. If it's going to be Boucher that he gives them to, it's a tough call. It really is. So Lowry probably continues to play 38 minutes per game. Norman Powell is probably going to continue to see.
He's out. Powell's out.
Oh, that's right.
The subligation.
That's right. That's right. He's out indefinitely too. That's right. Thank you. Yeah. So Terrence Davis, oh my God. Terrence Davis is good. Man, this team just got a nuclear bomb dropped on him, huh?
Yeah, it's bad.
God.
They have 3 players who are within the past 48 hours or 24 hours legitimately are no longer part of the roster.
Crazy.
Who are playing significant minutes. Like, to be more to clarify a little bit further, between Gasol, who isn't playing a ton, he was playing upwards of teens to mid 20s. Siakam, though, is playing heavy, and Powell was a large part of the rotation here.
No, Gasol was playing like 30 minutes recently.
Was he up that high? Wow.
Yeah, he's playing like 30 minutes per game recently. And Siakam around 38. Powell was averaging 34 since Van Vliet went out. If Van Vliet's out, God, Terrence Davis is going to have to get, because Terrence Davis was actually playing decent minutes beforehand, and then he didn't see any more minutes when Van Vliet went out. Like, they just went with a super condensed rotation, and Lowry and Norman Powell just played a ton, and Terrence Davis pretty much just got the backup point guard minutes, which wasn't anything. But now you take 33, 34 minutes out from Powell. You take Siakam out. You take Gasol out. First of all, I don't know if you saw this, but DraftKings priced Serge Ibaka at 7,400.
Okay.
Crazy. But somehow left Chris Boucher at 3,300. I don't understand that. So.
Well, I think as we talk often here on this here podcast, ownership matters. So keeping an eye on all of that as the day rolls on. Maybe enough people do not pay attention to said things, and we get some decent leverage is the wrong word, decent plays at cheaper price points on this Toronto Raptors roster. I would assume you'll see a big boost, though, as the day goes on Friday to some of these names. And you mentioned Davis, and you have Boucher as well. But this Toronto Raptors team, and I'm surprised the line is even out on this one. Like, to be quite honest.
It is out?
I'm seeing a spread. I'm not seeing an over-under, but I'm seeing where is it? I just had it, -10 on 2 different books. Now, whether or not that stays the same, not necessarily going to be, but through Vegas Insider, which is not the best website to use, but it aggregates other sites. So you're getting 2 sites that have open -10 for the Toronto Raptors. That blows my mind that even is available anywhere right now.
That's crazy.
With a projection.
Yeah, because where I was looking, it wasn't there.
Yeah. I mean, typically I'll use ESPN as a nice sort of jumping off point for odds, simply because it aggregates, again, other sites together and puts them out on their scores tab. But Raptors, Wizards there have nothing. On Vegas
Crazy.
Insider, you have a couple of sites that are starting to populate with -10. So take that for what it's worth. I assume this will stay off the board until pretty late tonight, if not until Friday morning on most legitimate sites, I would say. So more to come. Stay tuned for the NBA Strategy Show right here on our YouTube channel, which is back, which is great to say that is back after a about 48-hour hiatus due to an infraction, which it'll be expunged eventually. Don't worry about that. Anybody else at shooting guard before we hit small forward?
No, we can move on.
All right, so small forward, Doncic is out, so we take him out of the mix. Jimmy Butler's been a one-man wrecking crew. He gets the Knicks. We talked ever so briefly about him at shooting guard. He's 9K. Brandon Ingram against Golden State is 8,700. You get Wiggins, Simmons, Tatum, Harris, the typical cast of characters, though I do guess we get to talk in depth about Davis Bertans, who continues to light the fantasy world on fire. What do you like at small forward?
Yeah, Bertans has been crazy. But we'll talk about a few other guys first, and then we can get to him. So Hollis Jefferson, I think you're just going to have to play him here. Even if he gets 25 minutes or so, Rondae Hollis Jefferson is definitely going to get run. I'm going to for definitely tune into the strategy show Friday morning, because I'm going to put a little bit more research into this rotation. It's going to take me a while to try and put the pieces together. It's like DFS surgery, Dan. You're trying to find what's missing, do this, stitch it back up. Yes, I just compared myself to a surgeon.
Yeah, you do you. I mean,
in all seriousness, though, what I mean by this is why I think it's going to be difficult, and I'll just tell you quickly, because this is clearly the most important aspect of the entire slate, right? There's no question. Here's why I think it's important. Look at what we've seen. OG Anunoby, monster minutes. Norman Powell, huge minutes. Pascal Siakam, huge minutes. Kyle Lowry's playing upwards of 40 minutes in regulation, right? And then you have like Serge Ibaka, who is Marc Gasol's direct backup, plays a couple minutes alongside him. And then Terrence Davis getting some of those guard minutes, but not a lot. Chris Boucher once in a while gets into the mix. And then Hollis Jefferson was playing like 13, 15 minutes per game. Malcolm Miller was generally a DNP CD. So that's what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. A lot of times Nick Nurse was only running 9, even with Fred VanVleet out. So what do we do now? What do we see now that this team is just battered by injuries? I think you're going to have to see Hollis Jefferson get a lot of extra run.
Right.
And if you look at his rotation, here's the thing. Like, Siakam, the rotation is weird here, because if you take last game, for example, Siakam played the entire first quarter. And then you saw Terrence Davis started the second. Serge Ibaka started the second. Patrick McCaw, Lowry, and OG Anunoby started the second. So you had Ibaka at the 5. And then Rondae Hollis Jefferson came in and actually played a few minutes alongside Siakam. At no point did he actually sub out for Siakam. So I don't know how this is going to work, but with Gasol also out, that means that Serge Ibaka moves to the 5, and then Boucher likely backs him up, right? So Serge Ibaka to the 5, Boucher backs him up. At the 4, either Hollis Jefferson starts or OG Anunoby moves to the 4, and Hollis Jefferson backs him up. And then you'd have Lowry at the 1. Norman Powell's out, so that's another big injury. I guess you have to throw McCaw into the starting lineup, and maybe Terrence Davis. Like, you could see a Lowry, Lowry, McCaw. Okay, so Lowry, McCaw, Anunoby, Hollis Jefferson,
right.
Ibaka is what I think makes the most sense right now.
Yep.
But I really don't know. And if that's the case, Terrence Davis probably gets backup minutes at the 1 and the 2.
Well, it's also worth noting how decimated the Washington front court is.
Absolutely.
And so matchups here will just
oh yeah,
it's bad.
It's just like the battle of it's crazy. The battle of 2 completely depleted basketball teams. So I think like that's just kind of a preliminary breakdown I give you right now. It makes sense in my head, but we don't know if they're going to bring anyone up from the G League. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if Stanley Johnson's going to play. If he does, then you'd have a little bit of a reinforcement there. And I don't know if actually I guess Dewan Hernandez is on the roster, and O'Shea Brissett, I guess, he was recalled from the G League a while ago. Maybe he's still on the roster. So they have guys, but Nick Nurse doesn't like to run a ton of them. I think the guys that we've seen getting some minutes off the bench are probably still going to get pretty big minutes. So Hollis Jefferson to me is someone you have to really like. It's weird that Ibaka got priced to 74 and Anunoby's 56. I love him here. Pretty much anyone from Toronto that we think is going to get minutes is viable. Draymond Green is a good play. It's I don't Mikhailuk is 3K flat. Maybe he starts against Boston, but I don't see myself getting there. There's no meat on that bone. God, these injuries are insane. We're going to need all day to figure this out.
It's going to be a fun one on Friday. So as we said, don't forget the NBA strategy show on Friday morning. Get a deeper dive at 5 p.m. live before lock. After that, small forward has some question marks. Is that the position we're going to ask you for a projection for? I don't know quite yet. We have one more trivia question to go. And then, of course, we have a projection for a specific position and a number value. So I'm starting to give you some clues as we go through here for winning a 1-month Platinum Osmo Plus package. No Fantasy Cruncher, but you can add that on if you so choose. That's up to you, but you get it for free from myself and from Dave for listening to this podcast, but also from Alex and Tom and all the folks over at Osmo.com. Want to have some fun here on the final Friday before the holiday season really kicks off next week. As we roll on, power forward is up next. Obviously, Siakam out. He is 9,500.
We're not powering forward.
We're not powering forward.
That's
not
good.
Today. Maybe next week.
You broke that habit, huh?
I did. And you know what? Now that you mentioned it, it's going to come back. It's going to come back in with a vengeance next week.
No, I have faith that it won't.
I mean, clearly it will. The fact of the matter is, at power forward, Kristaps Porzingis at 8,500 gets Philadelphia, which is not the easiest matchup. Clearly, you have Joel Embiid in the center there, but this is a guy who has 3 in a row 50-plus DK point outings. He does not have Luka Doncic on the roster at present because of injury. And this is a sub 10K price point for a guy who in the past has shown us enough upside to have dominant outings. Is Porzingis a top play at power forward on this slate?
He's viable, but he's not going to be a top play for me, I don't think. Definitely viable. I don't think he's a top option for me, but I do like him. So Serge Ibaka.
Yep.
I want to talk about Serge Ibaka because I had mentioned this to Adam on the deeper dive 2 days ago. I was like, I don't know if you've seen this, but have you checked out Ibaka's actual production this season? You know, forgetting about his minutes, but like, have you seen what he's been doing? And we got into this conversation a little bit. He's averaging 1.21 fantasy points per minute, but not just that. He has quietly been sporting a usage rate of 27% this year, rebounding at 17%, blocking shots at 4%. I mean, dude, across 33 minutes, like if he plays that much, I still think he's totally viable at 7,400. As crazy as that sounds. Like if he play, and keep in mind, Nick Nurse is running so many of these guys into the ground. Maybe he'll do it with Ibaka. I don't know if he will, but against Washington, like you got to be projecting him for 40-plus points. Even at 7,400, Serge Ibaka to me is 100% in play. He is. And so is Chris Boucher. I mentioned that. He's got to be one of the best values on the slate.
Right.
Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. It's crazy. This whole Toronto team. I don't get why DraftKings would price Ibaka up and literally leave Boucher on the floor. I'm not asking for him to be I'm not asking for him to be 55K, but 3,300 is insane. Hollis Jefferson 41. the minutes have to go somewhere. Like, just consider this. This is the last thing I'll say about this team, but I really am trying to drive this point home. Consider this. With the minutes that those three had been playing recently, that's 102 minutes per game that you're losing. Add Van Vliet's 37 minutes per game that he'd been playing. That's 139 minutes, okay? That means that's 58% of the total minutes available to be played at 5 positions.
Right. Right. So one, that's a very interesting mathematical question to try to figure out exactly where you push all of those stats. But you talk about Ibaka, and he is at 7,400, right? Is that the price point? 7,400. He was 5K last time out. And we've talked many times over about the DK algorithm, and we are using DK as our jumping off point here. I would assume Ibaka had elevated ownership last time out, which led to a little bit of a price increase. But the thing that's interesting to me, and I agree with you fully in your analysis here, that Ibaka's price point and his jump seems strange in comparison to Rondae Hollis-Jefferson or Boucher. But this news about Pascal Siakam didn't come out until Thursday. Didn't come out until Thursday night, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
So something beyond even this injury, I think, played into this pricing for DK. And so what I'll be really intrigued for is how owned is Ibaka here? Like,
right.
Do people shy away because he's jumped from 5K to 7,400? Is he somehow, it's a 10 game slate, is he single digit owned here? I don't
think he will be. I think he'll be one of the more popular plays on the slate.
Okay. I think that's the intriguing question here.
The thing is, you're going to see him projected very high, especially
that's
in
right.
Matchup.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be enough to do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, Domantas Sabonis is in play, and yeah, with Porzingis, I don't have an issue with Porzingis. I think he's perfectly fine. But I don't love this matchup. It is a tough matchup, and I don't know if he's going to keep playing like 38 minutes. That seems a little bit of a stretch. The Toronto guys are all super. There's 4 Toronto players at power forward that are 100% in play. And then once you get past that, there's actually not that much. So this slate right now kind of doesn't make any sense at all.
Yep, that's always the fun ones, right?
Davis Bertans is totally fine against this totally beat up Toronto squad.
Yeah, and if he keeps shooting the way he is from 3-point range, do whatever you want, Davis. Like just continue doing your best to impersonate the best 3-point shooters in NBA history, and that is just fine. Power forward has some questions to answer, and it will be one of the questions, in fact, and this is all called a segue in the business. What was the name of the publication that did a feature on Dave Loughran a few years ago? So what publication, just you again, so you now have, what was the name of the podcast that Lofty and I first started podcasting together on? And then what was the name of the publication that featured one Dave Loughran as a full picture feature talking about his life playing DFS? And there was talk of your TV too, wasn't there, in there at some point?
Something
in the
stupid,
discussion?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, so we have that. Those are 2 questions. Projection is coming up momentarily. Let's talk center, where again, this Gasol, Siakam, Powell news is going to play part here because Ibaka is, if I remember correctly, on DK specifically, center eligible. I'll take a look momentarily on Yahoo. Don't forget, again, as we roll into the weekend, we do have the $175,000 baller over there on Yahoo. If you're trying to play outside of the big boys to an extent, which is FanDuel and DraftKings, I admit that here on this podcast, Yahoo is a great alternative, a place to play a different game. The pricing is similar to no one, so you get that unto itself, but the gameplay, meaning roster construction, is somewhat similar to DraftKings, and then you get the scoring is somewhat similar to FanDuel. So if you're someone who's trying to figure out where you belong in the DFS world, try out Yahoo. Figure out exactly how the gameplay works there. Understand it's its site unto itself. Enjoy what we have to offer. EMAC does a lot of free stuff in front of the paywall. We do have projections and ownership projections, which are behind the paywall. And again, giving away a free behind the paywall subscription today for Osmo Plus Platinum. And then you can also sign up. We have weekly promo codes now for 50% off our weekly plans. You can check that out at osmo_com. But again, check out Yahoo DFS. So center on this slate, we haven't even talked about Karl-Anthony Towns, who wasn't able to practice on Thursday. Now, Towns has been dealing with a knee injury. He did not play last time out, and he has a matchup here with Denver. I would assume Towns against Jokic would stand out, but 10-8 and a potential faulty knee takes you away from him. Like, how do you play Towns and the rest of center with the potential injury here?
Yeah, and it's like somewhat concerning when Towns misses a game, because Towns never misses games. What's he missed? Like 3 or 4 games for his career, something crazy. He's too expensive for me anyway. I don't really see myself getting the Towns, but of course value would open up in the event that he happens to sit again. We saw them lose 107-99 against the New Orleans Pelicans, and Gorgie Jang ended up playing 24 minutes in that game. So there's 24 minutes from Gorgie Jang. And then we got, let's see here, where was it? Jordan Bell played 11 minutes. I thought he would play a little bit more. That wasn't the case. Bates Diop played 18. Vonleh got in for 13 minutes. So you're seeing it mixed around down there, but probably 24, 25 minutes from Gorgie Jang. And then Wiggins is going to play a ton of minutes just because they need him. So I would point out, yeah, if Towns happens to be out, Wiggins is always in play, but I hate this matchup. Super pace down spot. Wiggins is priced up. Even if Towns is out, honestly, I probably won't get to much at all from this team. Gorgie Jang's 4,900 now. That's kind of prohibitive in this particular matchup. I don't know. I'd probably avoid it altogether.
What else do you like here? I point out Andre Drummond against the Boston Celtics. This is a team that we know, again, talking about the Grizzlies and the Jazz. Oh, well, you don't want to go against the Celtics, but this is a team that gives up a ton of rebounds and is not very big up front. Drummond with whatever I don't want to make an avocado joke, but I have to at least mention it. Whatever is going on with his eye situation would seem to be resolved last time out against Toronto with a 22-point, 18-rebound outing. This seems like a really solid spot for Drummond at 9,600. Do you agree, or are you going cheaper at center?
No, I like him here, no question. I like him. I also like Joel Embiid at 10K. I think Joel Embiid's totally fine. And this is a similar situation to what we saw 2 days ago. There was no Harden. There was no Giannis. There was no Doncic because he's hurt. There was no Towns because he was hurt. There was a Joel Embiid, 58 fantasy points, no problem. Now you've got him going up against Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber and Porzingis, who can block shots, but you're not super worried about him. I think Joel Embiid is very much in play here at 10K. And if the game's close, he's going to play 35 minutes or at least 33, 34 minutes. Philly's favored, but I don't really care at this point. They're just a very underwhelming team and a disappointing team. And as you can see behind me, I'm a big Sixers fan, but I hate them. I still like Joel Embiid. Outside of him, Nikola Jokic is interesting. It's been a pretty underwhelming season. Once in a while, he'll come out with a big game and make you think he's back, and then he'll sink back into oblivion. But he's been better recently. You've seen some I'd say encouraging performances. Came a rebound shy of a triple-double. Last time, 3 games ago, he did triple-double. 9,400 against Minnesota, whether Towns plays or not, is great. He's probably a better play if Towns does play. Keep the game closer, better matchup on the other end. Towns is a less than talented defender. So there are a decent amount of options I like here. I think Vucevic is fine if he gets his 32 minutes or so. probably don't get to Adebayo here. Hassan Whiteside, and I'll just throw one more out. Kevin Love, if the game is competitive and there's no reason it shouldn't be, and by competitive, I mean two bad teams not being able to pull away from this one.
Right.
224 total. Memphis is a 1-point favorite. I'm giving Kevin Love 32 minutes in a spot like that. And if that's the case, at 7,200, I like him quite a bit.
Well, what do you make of Jonas Valanciunas as a guy that when he was with Toronto, we struggled to project fully how many minutes he was going to get? Now with Memphis, seems like there's been upside for him overall, but minutes are still not necessarily as locked in as we may prefer. Matchup here with Tristan Thompson and Cleveland. I know Thompson in the past has been deemed a good defender, but if we get let's say 28 to 32 minutes at 6,900, is Valanciunas someone you're interested in?
I just have no idea how to project his minutes right now.
Right. Yeah.
I really have no idea. And they're all over the map. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not foul trouble. It's not blowouts. It's just he does or he doesn't play. And with that being the case, I don't want to pay that much for him.
All right. Any cheap options at center that at least to keep an eye on other than the obvious Toronto names that we've already mentioned?
No, right now there really isn't much. Like there's Chris Boucher and outside of that, no, I don't have anything.
All right. So here is the end of the Trivia Madness for today's episode. I want you in that comment. So now you have, what was the name of the podcast that Lofty and I first started doing in DFS? 2, what was the name of the publication that did a feature on Lofty? I think it's now, was it 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
God, it was around the time where we were super worried that everything was going to get shut down.
Yes.
So however long ago that was. 2015?
2015. So it's 4 years, 2 months ago. So that should be a clue of sorts. If you need to Google it, you can do just that and check the time frame. And then the final one is, I want you to choose the power forward that is going to score the most points, their name, and the points they score without going over. So that is the name of the podcast Dave and I co-hosted to start this whole madness that is a daily fantasy podcast. The publication that did a feature on Dave back in 2015 to give you a bigger clue there.
Oh, by the way, I do not like this publication.
Well, that's...
and there's a hint. If you know anything about me, it'll give you an idea of where to look.
And if you know anything about me, I don't mind it. So there it is. I do.
Exactly.
Mind. There are plenty of things I mind about it, but nonetheless. And then project the power forward that scores the most. And I should clarify, DK scoring. So DraftKings scoring is that what we're using here, and their score without going over. So that should eliminate all ties. I hope if there is a tie, if multiple people say the same podcast name, same publication name, same player, and same score, I will choose the winner. And that will come down to me, and you can bribe me via PayPal or Venmo or whatever you so choose. But also understand you can get an Awesemo.com sub by just signing up. Plenty of promo codes available over on Awesemo_com on Twitter. Dave, I want to not do what we typically do here on our podcast, which is ask you about a specific set of players and above. We're going to say 9K and above on this slate. Butler, Beal, Jokic, Drummond, Embiid, Towns. Who are you starting your roster construction with?
Yeah, it's a good question. What did you put it over above what? 9K?
9K and above.
Here's the crazy thing. I don't know if I'm starting my roster construction with any of them. You got to start with Toronto.
I agree. I think that's
there's a lot I need to really dig into, but I think we've given everyone a pretty good foundational look, and they know exactly where to look now. But if forced to pick one, I would probably go. I might even go Jokic at 94, but I like Embiid at 10 flat as well.
All right, there you have it. Don't forget, you can find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find him on Sirius 210 XM 87 every Saturday and Sunday with Manny Laura. That's Awesemo Radio. It is 5 to 7 on Saturday, 7 to 9 on Sunday. And of course, you find him across multiple videos and more here at Awesemo.com, the NFL Strategy Show, the Deeper Dive, which will be at 5 p.m. on Friday. NBA Strategy Show coming up at 9 9-ish, 15-ish, 9:15, 9:30-ish on Friday morning, depending on when that show gets going. YouTube is back, so definitely follow us on Twitter and Periscope, but find us on YouTube as well. Happy to be back over on YouTube, streaming and posting videos throughout the NBA season and NFL, the like, and so on. Don't forget, find me on Twitter at Dan Strafford. Again, final time, going to read it out. You have to be on YouTube. You have to comment. One comment only. If you're posting multiple comments, you're not going to be eligible. It has to be the name of the podcast that Dave and I started together back at Fantasy Insiders, to give you a clue, if that helps you out. And then it is the name of the publication that did a feature on Dave back in 2015. And then the power forward with the most points, DK pricing on the day, and what those points are, closest without going over on those points. So Price is Right rules implied here. With all that said, I'm not going to be back, I don't think, until after Christmas and into the Hanukkah season. Everybody, wish you the best of holiday seasons. Thank you so much for a great 6-year run here. Looking forward to 2020 and looking forward to so much more. Dave, any final comments before we say so long?
No, man. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to
But I'll see you before all that anyway.
Yeah, you find Dave's face on YouTube. Go find it out. You'll find it. And it's serious. Subscribe.
You ain't going to find my face on Sirius. But
I mean, they might. They can do like SiriusXM.com and stalk you over there as well.
That's true. There are a couple of nudes.
With that said, we wish you the best of luck. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, you get EMAC, you get Adam on the Saturday morning DFS Early Bird, presented by Osmo.com.